It is. Joining us now is Connecticut Democratic Senator Chris Murphy. I don't know, is it fun? Are you having a great time, Senator?
No, this sucks. I mean, we're debating a bill that's going to cut health care for 16 million people. It's going to give a tax break to, massively wealthy people who don't need any more money. There are going to be kids who go hungry because of this bill. This is the biggest reduction in, nutrition benefits for kids in the history of the country. I mean, this is the most deeply immoral piece of legislation that I have ever voted on in my entire time in Congress. We're obviously going to continue to offer these amendments to try to make it better. So far, not a single one of our amendments to try to make the bill better has passed. But we'll be here all day, probably all night, giving Republicans the chance over and over and over again to slim down the tax cuts for the corporations, or to make life a little bit less miserable for hungry kids, or maybe don't throw as many people off of health care, maybe don't close so many rural hospitals. It's going to be a long day and a long night.
They really want to get these tax cuts made permanent. That was one of the big things for President Trump. It has been one of the big things for Republicans. This is the way that they're doing it. Senator Mark Kelly floated an amendment to tax people who make more than $100 million a year more. By the way, Donald Trump also considered something like that for a second. Has his amendment been taken up?
I don't know whether his amendment has come up yet, but it's not going to pass. I mean, the only people that matter to Republicans right now are corporate CEOs and billionaires. Everybody else doesn't matter, because if you don't belong to Mar-a-Lago, you aren't a human being, according to this version of the Republican Party. And that is deeply sad. Even people like Josh Hawley, who were, kind of saying the right things for a while, maybe the Republican Party shouldn't be kicking the working poor off their health care, have fallen in line and are apparently going to vote for this thing in the end. If you are anybody except for a very, very rich person who can show up and pay the membership dues at Mar-a-Lago, you do not matter for this Republican Party. And you are seeing that on display right now, every single amendment that they reject.
And yet what's interesting is that working class people do see Donald Trump as somebody who sees them. And that's part of the reason why they say they voted for him. And when asked about the Democratic Party, they say the Democratic Party has moved away from us and what we care about and what we need. They don't see me any longer. This is what they say. I'm not sugarcoating it. So how do the Democrats, if as you argue, the Republicans really only care about the Mar-a-Lago set, how do the Democrats convince these voters that they were fooled?
Well, I mean, the first thing we need to do is just explain what this bill is. And, the polling varies. Obviously, it's a deeply unpopular bill, but there still aren't enough people who know what's actually going on here. Because you're right, a lot of people, heard Donald Trump say during the campaign, and they've heard him say over the last few months, we are not cutting Medicaid. I mean, he still says that. And yet this is the biggest cut in Medicaid in the history of the country. 24% of Americans, working Americans, get their health care from Medicaid. They're going to lose it under this bill, all to finance a tax cut for his Mar-a-Lago friends. We've got to tell that story all around the country. I was stuck here this weekend, but I was due to be in Wichita, Kansas. I was due to be in a deep red state, because Democrats have got to be all over the country explaining to people that they got duped by Donald Trump. But then the second thing we need to do is stop offering incremental solutions. I mean, when this fight is over, yes, the Democrats are going to have to tell people what we're for, and that should be a massive increase in the minimum wage. That should be making it a whole lot easier for people to join labor unions so they can boost their wages. That should be breaking up these big monopolies, corporate behemoths that are keeping wages suppressed. People don't want marginal changes to our economy. They want the Democratic Party to be for really big, bold ideas. And if we pair those really big, bold ideas together with a constant focus on shouting from the rooftops about this bill, the most massive transfer of wealth from the poor and the middle class to the wealthy in the history of the country, then I think we have a shot to win back a lot of those working class and poor voters that did vote for Trump in this last election.
On the subject of Democrats winning, what did you think of the Mamdani win for the Democratic primary here in New York City? Is that a roadmap for what the Democrats should do?
Well, to an extent. I mean, listen, there are certain things that he stands for and says that I don't agree with, but I think you have to pay attention to the fact that you had a candidate in New York City that was talking every single day about the cost of living, and he was proposing really big, sometimes radical ideas to take power from folks who have way too much of it, like the big realty companies that are jacking up rents in New York City, and transferring it to regular people. He did have a laser-like focus on cost of living, on shifting power to people who don't have enough of it. And I think if the Democratic Party, writ large, spent as much time or as big a percentage of our communications time talking about the cost of living as Mamdani did in New York, we'd probably win a lot more elections.
Part of the reason why I think Republicans have been so successful in telling people that they're going to fight for them and that these Medicaid cuts aren't really Medicaid cuts is the argument that they're taking it away from people who shouldn't be here in the first place. They're saying they're going to undocumented immigrants. They're the ones stealing from you. They're the ones that are making your lives harder. They're the ones that are suppressing wages. What should the Democratic Party line be on immigration? Because that does seem to be what people are able to grab onto. The ones that voted for Donald Trump, they will say, I don't like this idea that undocumented immigrants are getting more benefits than I am. So what is the Democratic line on that?
Okay, first, we shouldn't have any shame or any hesitation in coming after the central lies that they tell. Medicaid does not fund health care for people who are here without documentation. So this bill has nothing to do with taking people who are here illegally off of the rolls of Medicaid. Medicaid doesn't cover those people. Second, we need to attack the idea that immigrants pose a very unique safety threat to American citizens. This fact may be inconvenient for Republicans, but people who are new to this country commit crimes at a rate lower, not higher, than people who were born in the United States of America. So don't have any shame in telling the true story about immigrants here in the United States. But second, yes, we have to take the question of border security more seriously. For a long time, voters didn't think we cared about it because Republicans talked about it 10 times more than we did. I spent all of 2023 and 24 writing a big, tough, bipartisan border security bill that put billions of new dollars in border security, that fundamentally changed our asylum laws, that would make it harder for people to come here if they didn't have a compelling asylum claim. And I think Democrats should be boldly running on a lawful, compassionate way to get tough at the border. We shouldn't hide from that issue, as I think we did for a long time.
Yeah, that was a bill that looked like it was going to pass. It was a conservative bill, conservative-leaning bill, but Donald Trump got involved while he was running for president and sank it among Republicans. All right, Senator Chris Murphy, thank you so much for joining us. Always good to have you.
Thanks, Katie.